A bad leader is a corrupt leader. A leader who tries to put somebody in a position for the sake of other reasons other than competence, other than capacity, other than capability. When you do that, you create a massive gap. And that massive gap creates the problem that we have today. A good leader is the one who gives competent people to competent positions. And you can see the result firsthand. When you put somebody, because he is maybe a loyalist, or maybe he's a tribal person, he's from your tribe, or maybe you just want to compensate him. You put him in a position that he lacks competence. You're a bad leader. And that is what we have seen. I was equally surprised. In fact, yes, it happened this year, but it mentioned the idea of what the Chief of Defense Staff said. To our utter surprise and shock, we have spoken to every security expert in the world, not in Nigeria. I am the Vice President of International Security Association. I have discussed with several experts. What is the idea that somebody tells you that he's a criminal, he has committed all kinds of heinous crime, he has killed our men and women in uniform, he has sacked communities, and he tells you that he has repented. And what we hear is that they are called repentant.
This is Naija Unfiltered on SYMFONI TV. My name is Olawale Oluwade, and my guest today is Chikwe Udensi. A proper introduction is appropriate. Chairman, Governing Council, Institute for Security and Safety Studies, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Fraud Investigators of Nigeria, and then he's also the Vice President, International Security Association, and then the Managing Consultant, INTERPOL Systems National Central Bureau. Of course, he's a seasoned politician, former governorship aspirant from Abia State, and also a political analyst. Sir Chikwe, nice to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me, Wale.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Without further ado, let's jump right into our conversation. The coalition summit that happened in Ibadan, or your state, some of the coalition political parties. Give us your general overview of this event.
You know, usually when you have an action, you should expect a reaction to an action. The opposition thinks very strongly that there's an attempt to strangle it. And what you see happening around is a reaction to an action. So the ruling APC is seen as a strangulator, and then the opposition is trying to rally around to say, listen, we can't be strangled. In fact, to the extent to which they said, listen, we are going to come together and bring one presidential candidate. So this is a result of it's a reaction to an action, perceived action or seen action. That's exactly what we have seen right now.
So you agree more or less with the summit? You agree with it? The whole idea, the objective of the summit?
It is expected. We are in an election season, and any summit that comes in an election season, especially from a political party, signals something. A summit is not called for nothing. Once you see a political party during a season, electionary season, call for a summit, that summit is intended to achieve a purpose.
Okay, but some have actually accused APC party men and some of the functionaries of President Tinubu of double standards. Those who even chose to use such mild language. Some actually accuse them of being hypocritical. 2010-2011, President Buhari said, if the PDP rigged the election, both the dog and the baboon will be soaked in blood. Open threat of violence. Of course, I made allusion because President Tinubu now admits that Buhari is him, he is Buhari. But let's even come closer to last year, 2023 rather. The essay, the special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Bayo Onanuga, during the elections or before the elections, accused the Igbos, used some very terrible language against the Igbo people in Lagos, and that warned them that if they repeated what happened before, blah, blah, and all of that. Of course, even more recent, like a week ago, the president at the National Revenue Service building headquarters commissioning said, "Oh, Mr. Senate President, I will send you to the other side, to represent me. You scatter them." Okay, you could say that was in jest. But then his chief of staff jumped on that comment and repeated that same, advice to a certain Honorable Leke Bejide that stay in ADC, don't go anywhere. It's your party. You funded it. Stay there. We like what you're doing. Scatter them.
Yeah, when it comes to the use of derogatories, the use of threats,
Inciting.
the use of some inciting languages, it is not encouraged. At least not when you are in a political season, because there are things tend to be very, very ignacious. Things tend to be very, very sensitive in this period of time. And it is not right to do that, especially when they are coming from government recognized personnel, those who are in government, spokesmen of government or spokesmen of the president. It is not encouraging. As it has to do with the Igbos, using derogatories, using some insult. We have seen quite a lot of insult against Igbos, and it doesn't bother us. It doesn't necessarily change the trajectory of an Igbo man. The Igbo man is focused, progressive, determined to ensure that its interest is sizably covered in the scheme of things. We're not necessarily asking for too much within the scheme of things in the country. We are asking for fair play, equity, and justice. Anybody who is asking for these is not asking for too much. And that's exactly what we're asking for.
Now, one of the major outcomes from this Ibadan summit was a declaration that all the parties that came together would field one presidential candidate or presidential ticket.
The Electoral Act is very clear on the process. It's either you go by consensus or you go by direct primaries. Only two means to achieve it. And what direct primaries means is that all registered members of the party will have to exercise their rights of choice. That's exactly what it means. I don't think that there should be any issues here. What we should be talking about is the sportsmanship that has to do in politics. If you seek for an office, you don't get it, you take the backstage and allow those who have gotten it to be able to exercise the confidence that has been reposed on them through voting process. Moreover, you know the provisions of the Electoral Act. You can't even move. You can't even shift. Before now, when you go and contest, you don't succeed, you quickly move to another political party or another platform or even another office candidacy and seek it. But now it is different. So what I will expect them to do is fight, a good fight. If you lose, support whoever wins. And that's what I think and I believe they have said. And they've said it publicly, that they will support whoever wins. However, to suggest that it is the turn of the South for 2 terms, I don't understand it. The Constitution allows for a 4-year term for everybody. This quest for 8 years, I don't understand it. I don't know where we got it from. You only get an 8-year term if you have done well in your first 4-year term. So if you have not done well, you leave it to the discretion of the voters to make a decision as to whether they need you back or not. We should not have this entitlement tendency of, yes, the previous one did 4 years, or the previous one did 8 years, therefore I should do 8 years. No, the Constitution allows for 4 years tenure, renewable if the voters say so. We should allow it to the voters. If the voters don't want you, you cannot impose yourself on the people. And if you do, you create a problem you will not be able to solve. Nigeria is not a banana republic. We have people who have enough strength to say no, hell no, when it is time to say no.
Some political commentators have said that this move of a few parties coming together to field to agree, an alliance, not a merger, just an alliance, coming together and they will field, that it's a master stroke. It's a political master stroke, a work of a genius. Because what it means, I use this analogy that if you are chasing a rat, it's easier. Now you have 4 rats, you just run around in a circle and get tired.
Actually, I do not know exactly what the leadership of the coalition is thinking about. I don't know what they're thinking about. But one would expect that if you should have not just plan A and B, you should go out to plan C and D. That is how a good politician should behave.
Chief, let me put you on the spot. How afraid is the President Tinubu government? And what's their response? What do you envisage for them to be their counter strategy, counter maneuver? This is warfare. This is high-level chess game going on now.
I wouldn't say afraid. I would prefer to use concerned.
Okay.
Of course, they should be concerned.
Okay.
If you are in this country and you see how things are going, if you see the extent to which your reforms have affected the people, you see the response of the people, and you see that quite a lot of things are going southwards, and you are the president, and you are preparing for next election, you should be concerned as to the opinion of those you are ruling. Today, I can tell you very clearly that Nigerians are not happy. If you recall my earlier interview with you here,
yes,
I told you that Tinubu made 8-point-something million votes to become the president of Nigeria. 5.3 of that, about 8 million votes, is from the North.
Yeah.
The North that gave him that vote, they're not with him today. They're not very angry. And don't forget that for some reason, I don't want to be very specific on the reasons we have adduced. For some reason, there's quite a lot of poverty in the North. The last time I went to the North, I was quite a little bit concerned. The number of out-of-school children is highest in the North. The number of those who are dependent on government handouts is higher in the North. If you have that number...
Even the number of street beggars.
It is higher in the North. If you have that number, and then you, in the process of your reform, they are sizably affected, the tendency is that you should be concerned because they are the voters. You have quite a lot number of voters in the North. And democracy is all about votes. So they should be concerned. The PDP should be, APC should be concerned. And they have exhibited this concern from what they are already doing, wanting to induce through all kinds of means serving governors to join them, induce serving members of the National Assembly to join them, induce persons of interest and personality to join them. So that is concern. If anybody takes those steps, you should expect and should also know that they're sizably concerned. APC is very concerned, very, very concerned that there is a negative perception of the economy, of healthcare, of security. Very importantly, security. If you take a look at the crime desk, like I always will make reference to, you find out that where the situation, the security situation in the country is getting completely out of hands. And it's enough to concern anybody in government.
Yes, yes. Brilliant, Chief. I mean, even though you said the substantial votes the president got 2023 from the North is not with him anymore, but the governors are still there. The National Assembly leaders are still there. You didn't add also the so-called city boy movement. The city boy, these are heavyweights in their own right, and they may be there for selfish reasons. We never can tell. But
don't forget that the governors were governors and lost elections.
Exactly.
So many governors that wanted to be senators didn't get it. So that you have a governor supporting you does not necessarily mean that the people will vote with the governor. It is a plus. At least it's comforting that you have a governor. But it does not necessarily translate to vote. Especially when people are angry. When the community, when the society, when everybody is saying, we don't like what is going on. And they say it publicly to the hearing of everybody that what is going on is not acceptable. And government, in their process, which if you recall what I said the last time, reforms comes with pains. But it is important that the government should put in place some soothing effects. You must have to put in position things that will make people not feel the reforms to the extent to which they are currently feeling it. Reforms are necessary, but put in place the machinery, the instrumentality that will make sure that people at least will be able to survive the reforms.
And to corroborate the point you made that because the governor is joining you, does not necessarily mean the people are also, following the governor to join you. But some have even said that, like it happened to President Jonathan, practically in this country, 2014, 2015. Many people said they were with him, but on the day of election, it turned out otherwise. Katsina State Governor, specifically, came out the other day to say to the people of Katsina that we would only vote for those who are performing, just to show that on the election day, nobody knows how it will play out. But Chief, I want us to make progress. In the ADC coalition, we have former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who has run 5 times now to be president without success. Then Rotimi Amechi, former governor, Rivers, did very well. Minister, he claims he's done very well, railways and some other infrastructure. My question, Sir Udensi, which of these men do you think will likely step down, swallow, put their ego, oversized ego, put it aside, and say, Nigeria is bigger than my ambition, I can work with this man, let's save this country? Which of them?
All of them have said it openly, that they're in coalition to select the best person, the best man for the job. And the only way to get the best man, according to them, is to go for primaries. So, I don't know what else to add. They have said it very openly, very clearly. Rotimi Amechi said, listen, the best man will be supported. And I have no doubt that these are men of honor and integrity. They're not going to renege on what they have said. They have said very clearly that they will support whosoever wins the primaries. And by the time the primaries are being held, you don't have a choice as to whether you go to another political party, given the new Electoral Act provision. So there's no gain saying that anybody will renege or anybody will walk away. And if you ask me, all of them are eminently qualified. All of them are eminently qualified. They have values they can bring to the system. Enormous value they can bring to the system. So it is left to the electorates at the primary level to decide who they are going to ask to fly the flag of the coalition. Don't forget that we just 1 month to the end of the primaries.
Exactly.
It has commenced already. So by end of May, the primaries will have been over. So you should expect a heated up campaigns of the various individuals that are interested, while their supporters are promoting them and see nothing wrong about them, even when they are human, and then seeing the whole lot of rot in the others. That's what it should be all about. I don't see that as division. And I don't see that as breaking the coalition. At this stage, they are trying to promote their own, and which is necessary.
Okay. Now, Nigeria, this coalition thing is not novel. We've seen it before, or alliance or coalition or merger. APC itself is a merger of various political parties. If I even go back to the beginning of this Fourth Republic, in 1998, 1999, the Alliance for Democracy merged with APP, to produce one ticket, Olufalaye, that squared up against Obasanjo of the People's Democratic Party. That's actually more like what is going on now, an alliance. Now, we've seen that before, 2010, 2018, 2014, some survived and worked. Many did not. Why do you think this Ibadan political summit would succeed? What gives you confidence?
You said it better. Every of the season, electionary season, has always been all about coalition, alliances, and underground supports.
There wasn't any in 2023. And some would have argued that's why they lost. That's why opposition lost to the incumbent now.
There was, but it wasn't as prominent as it used to be. There were some movements. People cross-carpeted, and those who stepped down for the others. There has always been. This one that is coming up now, I have not told you that it must succeed. I have not said so.
Okay.
The wishes of those who are coalescing is that they succeed. And then the wishes of the ruling party is that there should be a failure on their own part.
Yeah.
We who are on the side looking and wanting to know how best to do it, we are saying, let it be free and fair. That is what we're asking for. Whether you're on the side of the government or on the side of the coalition, all we're asking for, let it be free and fair. If it is not free and fair, you'll be jeopardizing the future of the country.
Yeah.
Because if you do it the first time and get away with it, the second time may not work. There are so many people who believe that it's either free or the country will be in total jeopardy. And that's exactly what people are feeling. So I will urge government and urge opposition, urge everybody to please play by the rules. Allow a free and fair election. Let the will of the people decide. Let the will of the people say who governs them. That is what democracy is all about. If it is subjugated, if it is done in such a way that the interest of the people does not take preeminence, I won't see any silver lining.
Well, we can only hope that those who have the power to do the right thing, they actually go ahead to do the right things for the sake of our country. Now, switching gears, President Tinubu, last week, during the commissioning of the new headquarters building of the Nigerian Revenue Service, made a number of comments, but one of them was to the effect that anyone who is not seeing the achievements of his administration needs a pair of eyeglasses. Are you one of those who do not see one of his achievements? But seriously, Sir Udensi, how do you respond to the president? How do you respond to the president? Because the president and his men believe they've done fantastically well.
It is like the egg of a praying mantis.
The eggs of a praying mantis.
The holder says it's a big egg. And sees a big egg of a praying mantis. The opposition to the praying mantis egg says it's a very tiny egg and it's not worth anything. What you see happening today is exactly what you should expect in an electoral season. We are preparing for elections. The president is offering himself again for a second tenure. So the president will see the advantages and the benefits of what he has done. Those who are saying we want to take over the office of the president, they will see the things the president has not done and they will amplify it. It is very common and very natural. I have not seen what Mr. President said to be different from what he ought to say. He said he has done well. He needs a second tenure. The opposition says, you've done nothing. In fact, you've plunged the country into the very deep, dark abyss. That's what the opposition is saying. It is now left for the electorate, who are members of the society. We are here, we are seeing everything.
Yeah.
We will know either of them who is saying the truth, especially if you look at your standard of living, look at the peril you are suffering right now. If you are suffering any peril, look at the benefits you have right now, then you'll be able to make a decision as to whether Tinubu has done well or whether we need a change. Either way, we are asking, let all parties allow the electoral process to have some level of integrity.
Two issues I want to talk on concerning these eyeglasses and achievements. You touched on one, insecurity. Is that your area of expertise? I mean, look at the rate of insecurity now. But beyond that, because we'll come to insecurity shortly, Aso Villa, as we speak here, Aso Villa is not on the national grid anymore. So it is immune from what everyday Nigerians are going through. Speak to this in terms of achievements, as achievements for the president.
That is so sad. I'm surprised that the presidency chose to do that and advertised it and made Nigerians know that you are off the grid. I'm equally surprised that you see the way our heads of agencies, especially law enforcement agencies, and heads of the armed forces, do you see how they move? When they move from their homes to their offices, they have the number of retinue of military armed personnel that gives you an impression that we are under some serious siege.
In the FCT here?
Inside the FCT. So if you are heading a security apparatus whose job it is to provide security for the people, maintenance of law and order, and then you give the impression that there is serious insecurity, what do you expect the rest of the people to do? It is so sad that the presidency chose to go off the grid and publicized it and asked the rest of us to go to hell. It is so sad. It is very, very sad. And I can tell you without any equivocation that Nigerians will not take it well with them.
Let's put numbers, because we're talking about human life. In the last 30 days alone, more than 120 people have been reportedly killed in the northwest of Nigeria. We heard that 49 villagers, were massacred in Kebbi, Kwara, Benue, Plateau states. Nigeria is now ranked 4th on the Global Terrorism Index. 4th on the Global Terrorism Index. And like you said now, I see them. In fact, I know some of these people one-on-one, some of these, top service chiefs, I know them. So you see them move around, you'll be wondering, inside this FCT, who is going after you? So, has the government, the leaders, have they abandoned the people? Because, sir, as we sit here also, we have communities, villages that have been abandoned. The people there have fled because of incessant attacks in Kwara State, Yobe, Borno, all those places. Have the government abandoned the people to their fates, to their own, devices?
There is a book that we have just finished. I would like you to take a look at that book. It is about insecurity and insurgency in Nigeria. From 1970, we didn't just start now. From 1970 till 2025. We didn't add 2026 because we have not finished 2026. Yes. So we're talking about 55 years. You will see the various causes, the reasons why insecurity has exasperated in the country. And one thing keeps coming up. And that thing that takes a chunk of the reasons is leadership. When you see a good leader on the trajectory from 1970 to 2025, whenever we have a good leader, you see that insecurity has come down. And then what is a good leader from that book? You say, well, we prepared that book, the security consultants, we prepared that book. What is that good leadership? What he calls a bad leader, he didn't add thing that ought to be. A bad leader is a corrupt leader. A leader who tries to put somebody in a position for the sake of other reasons other than competence, other than capacity, other than capability. When you do that, you create a massive gap. And that massive gap creates the problem that we have today. A good leader is the one who gives competent people to competent positions. And you can see the result firsthand. When you put somebody because he is maybe a loyalist, or maybe he's a tribal person, he's from your tribe, or maybe you just want to compensate him. You put him in a position that he lacks competence. You're a bad leader. And that is what we have seen. I was equally surprised. In fact, yes, it happened this year, but it mentioned the idea of what the Chief of Defense Staff said. To our utter surprise and shock, we have spoken to every security expert in the world, not in Nigeria. I am the Vice President of International Security Association. I have discussed with several experts. What is the idea that somebody tells you that he's a criminal, he has committed all kinds of heinous crime, he has killed our men and women in uniform, he has sacked communities, he has killed, and he tells you that he has repented. And what we hear is that they are called repentant, that we want to rehabilitate them. And they have over 6 months that they have graduated. Graduated from what? What kind of graduation is it? They have graduated from not being terrorists anymore? The truth is very simple, Mr. Wale, that if any terrorist tells you he has graduated, he's no more terrorist, he's only on vacation. When the circumstances are right for him to be a terrorist, he remains a terrorist. And that is what we are seeing today. This country cannot spend over ₦1 billion, over 1 billion naira, saying that those who ought to be incarcerated or who ought to pay the penalty of the enormous crime they have committed, and you suggest that they tell you. And moreover, let us find out, at what point did they become repentant? Were they apprehended? Were they arrested? Or did they choose by themselves to drop their weapons? When did they become repentant? It's only a language that is common in Nigeria or acceptable here in Nigeria. It is not acceptable anywhere in the world that one will commit an enormous heinous crime and he tells you he's repentant, and you spend so much money without any repercussion. It is unfortunate. It's so sad. And it's unfortunate it's a decision of this government.
Let's interrogate this briefly, Sir Udensi. First, let me acknowledge that this Operation Safe Corridor, that's what it's called. It did not start with President Tinubu. It's a holdover from President Buhari. But, Chief, I know you taught, but I didn't quite get it. You are the expert here. In Nigeria, I don't know how many Nigerians have your cognate experience on global security matters. Is there any country in the world that does the same thing? Or people commit treason, crimes of that nature? Do you know?
There's no such country in the world.
So where did you get this from? The templates?
That's what we're asking. In fact, one of our consultants from Switzerland, he said, and I paraphrase him, go and tell your political leaders, especially those who are running your security apparatus, if they have forgiven and called them repentant and things that will bring back or bring down insurgency, go and ask them to go back to school. They have learned nothing and they know nothing. They should go back to school. It's unfortunate that around the world, nowhere else, I'm the Vice President of International Security Association, 186 member nations. And we have talked to all the security experts around, even those that are serving as chiefs in their various law enforcement agencies of their country. We have asked them, what is this? What is this? There's no deterrent. And once you lack deterrent, you are encouraging some serious crime. And let me give you figures and facts. If you check repeat offenders, check those who have committed heinous crime, served, and released, They have come out to be repeat offenders. And in some countries, we have over 60% repeat offenders. Now, we are talking about those who have served their term in the various penitentiary, in the various detention centers, as against those who did not even pass through the judicial system of being prosecuted, of being found guilty, or even serving one day. These are people who were arrested, picked up by law enforcement in the course of putting their lives in danger. And they have been picked up, and they suddenly tell you that they have repented. And you spend billions to rehabilitate them, and after 6 months, just 6 months, you are injecting them back into the society. Wale, we are talking about a country where our data system, the data application system, is very substandard, extremely substandard.
If not entirely non-existent, actually.
It is existent to a large extent, but it is substandard. It does not meet international best practices.
You're talking about, sorry to interject, you're talking about criminal records of convicts or those even arrested. That's what you're talking about here?
Yes.
Does it exist?
It does exist, but in a very, very weak state. You know, I'm in charge of the Interpol systems. The only system that we know that is superb, that meets international standards, is the I-247 of Interpol. That's what we're running right now. 196 member nations. But what I'm saying, as a matter of fact, is that our data collection and use system is such that Wale Thomas can change to be John Wale and move from one establishment to another. That terrorist, whose name is John Ingram, for example, can say, yes, even my name is John Ingram. He can move into law enforcement as a terrorist because of the very poor data analysis and usage system of our country. And if you have that level of lapse,
porosity,
that level of non-capacity to use data as the way it ought to be. If you have that, and you are telling us that those you have called repentant terrorists cannot go back into any system, judicial system, legal system, they can go into our armed forces, law enforcement agencies, they can enter that easily and freely. And look at how young they are. They are still within the bracket that will be allowed to enter into our system. And moreover, the question has been, a friend asked me, he's from Brussels, one of our consultants, he asked me, what was the arrangement, what is the after-release arrangement by government? When you release them and say you are injecting them back into the society, yes, you have in 6 months done some level of rehabilitation. What profession can anybody acquire in 6 months that will make him useful in the society? If the circumstances that made him become a terrorist arise again, he will still be a terrorist. So if you have not done enough, and in fact he told me that the minimum number of years should be 4 years to effectively de-radicalize them and provide them with the tools to be useful in society, skills that are necessary. That has not been provided. And those who are doing this, they are jeopardizing the safety of our nation.
This is really scary, Sir Udensi, this is scary. But quickly, before we wrap up on this bit, I read a lot about some of this, and I like to be very open-minded. So I read both sides of any issue. Now, a counter-argument is that, after all, the government of President Umaru Yar'Adua granted amnesty to the Niger Delta agitators, and that's why that whole situation went down, and we're able to continue crude oil exploration and exportation. The two issues, Niger Delta agitators who are fighting over injustice, the spoliation of their land, and this one, is there any correlation? How do you respond to this?
The relationships are not functional. That's not a functional relationship. Those Niger Delta were sent back to school within and outside the country. They were sent to establishments to go and study skills. And moreover, they were freedom fighters. they were not necessarily terrorists. They are saying, as a matter of fact, that you are collecting oil from us.
Yes.
And we're not benefiting from the oil, even when you are polluting our environment. That's what they were saying.
We can't even do farming or
so
fishing.
You cannot relate them with people who are sacking communities, killing our soldiers in uniform, killing our men in uniform, and then in 6 months, they have turned to be angels that can be admitted into our society. That is totally a form of madness that we're exhibiting in this country. And it's going to boomerang very seriously against us.
What do you say in one sentence, if you can? This Operation Safe Corridor should be scrapped or should be modified?
Well, I do not believe in throwing the bad water
with the baby.
Away with the baby. If we find areas that have not performed very well, we'll change it. It is a good program. It's a program that is intended to enhance security within the system.
I'm talking of this because is this Operation Safe Corridor?
The Operation Safe Corridor has different
aspects or components.
Of it. The aspect that has to do with deradicalizing, that is unacceptable. There's nothing like that. It does not work around the world. Only legal force is required against violence. That is what brings violence down. You don't bring unnecessary peace that doesn't work to those who have shown extreme violence to the society they ought to belong to. That's unacceptable.
And some have argued, to lend credence to what you're saying, when amnesty was granted to Niger Delta agitators, the rate of insecurity and then agitation, went down drastically.
Absolutely.
That's why we're able to continue, crude oil exploration and whatever.
Absolutely.
Whereas we've been doing this now, over 3,000, sir, deradicalized. Has it improved insecurity? Or rather, it has worsened?
It has exasperated the problem.
Okay.
It has made the problem worse.
Okay. Now,
and that would tell you that it is not working.
Evidence, bear that out. Now, switching gears, Udensi, you publicly slammed Southeast governors for security neglect, and advise them to take, a cue from their Southwest counterpart, on this same program, talking about asking them to imitate the Amotekun security introduction and all of that, Now, in your opinion, sir, which of the Southeast governor is the worst offender in the area of insecurity? Give us a name, or don't be political. Don't be political. You're an Interpol expert. Give us a name. Don't be political.
Let me be honest with you.
Who is failing the most amongst them?
Let me be honest with you.
Yes.
My practice in security is not a local one.
Absolutely.
It's not a local one.
Absolutely.
So I would not...
You're an international player.
I will not go to a level of...
No, Chief, I won't buy down.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I condemned what they did.
Yes. You're not condemning it again?
No, I condemned what they did earlier.
Okay.
I condemned it very totally, and I still condemn it.
Okay.
They had an opportunity to have a regional security. And like I said, that regional security was to dovetail. It was to systematically allow for state policing.
Community policing, state policing.
That's exactly what it was supposed to be. Yes. And they had that opportunity. They did not use it. That was why I condemned what they did.
But what happened to the Ebubeago and all of those?
That's what it was supposed to be. Ebubeago started, but along the line, first of all, a few states started using it as a political tool against opposition.
So which hunt opposition elements?
And there was a judgment in one of the states that said, listen, this ought not to continue. Wow. But they didn't do it the proper way. What they ought to have done is to make sure that it's a coalition of all state enforcement. And also, make sure you don't use political thuggery. Political thugs should be kept away from it. You see, that is why when people talk about state policing, I encourage state policing. I encourage the decentralization of what we have right now. But do not give politicians the command and control of arms and ammunition. If you do that, you create a big problem. Experience has taught that, especially this category of our politicians that have very thin skin. They don't accept opposition, they don't accept any criticism, they don't accept any form of dissent. If you give them that power to manage arms and ammunition, control it to the extent to which it can be used at their whims and caprice, you are going to create a problem in the country. And we have advised against it.
Okay, let me come to something I delayed for us to get to. In March this year, you quietly, and I stress the word quietly, hosted former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, some northern leaders, and some Igbo leaders also at your Abuja mansion. I will call it mansion because I've been there. I know it's a mansion. No press release, closed door. We don't know the outcome. Sir Udensi, please, for the benefits of our viewers, what deals what deals were struck? What agreements, came out of that closed door meeting?
I have answered this several times, and let me answer it again. Every year, for the past, I'll say 25 years,
Okay.
whenever there is a fasting season, I fast with my Muslim brothers, and also, if it falls all into the Lent, I also fast that period of time. And the process of fasting.
No wonder you're looking so good.
In that process of fasting, I invite my friends. When we have Christian fasting, I invite my Christian friends to breaking of our fast. So if you find out that within that 40 days Christians will fast, we must have had about 20 days of breaking of fast that I organize and entertain our people. So I also do that with my Muslim brothers. And don't forget that Atiku Abubakar is a good friend of mine. And my neighbor too. So I invited him. I invited also our Christian brothers who were equally fasting the same period of time. Because this year's fasting collaborated and coincided. So that's what you saw there. It was not political.
Okay.
It was not intended to endorse anybody. It was not intended to politicize any system. It was intended to collaborate our efforts in fasting and to show that we are one, we are the same, Christians and Muslims. That's what exactly happened there. It was taken out of context by so many people because I'm a politician. I'm also a security expert. It was taken out of context.
Okay.
It was not intended to cause the kind of uproar that eventually it caused.
Okay. Now, let's return to our...
However,
yes,
don't forget that when politicians meet,
yes, they'll always
everything will be on table. All discussions are on table.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely,
yes.
absolutely. Okay, so I go back to the security. You're the topmost, Interpol security consultant in Nigeria. I don't know whether in West Africa or even Africa, but I know in Nigeria you are the top. Now, with all this insecurity crisis we have, banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, that has not, abated, rather exacerbated, are we getting any help, any assistance from the Interpol, your organization? Are we getting any help, any assistance, technology deployment? Because each time we have these attacks and all of that, a recurring decimal is information, intelligence breakdown and all of that. Are we getting the necessary assistance? Or, let me rephrase it, is your assistance being sought? Are they demanding for your assistance?
You should know my position. My position is that I'm the managing consultant of the system, Interpol Systems. I signed contract with government to manage 196 member nations in Nigeria. And you have to also understand the standard operating procedures of Interpol. Interpol does not dabble into internal affairs of anybody or for any country. Interpol gets involved when it is a cross-border crime. It must be a cross-border crime.
Yes.
A crime was committed in one country, and there is the culprit or the need for investigation in another country. That's where Interpol comes in. And what Interpol does is that it works with the country's law enforcement. For example, in Nigeria, they are working with Nigerian police force. In other countries like America, they work with the judiciary. Interpol is under the Department of Justice in America. And in countries like Singapore, it is under the border police, which is immigration. So it depends on the country's desire where they want to domicile the Interpol of their country. So in Nigeria, it's Nigerian Police Force. So what they have done here is to provide the tools. We have 19 databases. These are criminal records. They are used in law enforcement and also in prevention of crime. More importantly, in crime prevention and also apprehension of criminals. So Interpol does not get involved in day-to-day running of insecurity in countries, no. They provide you the tools for you to do your security work and also ensure that it is one community. You can't commit a crime in one location and feel safe in another location.
How are you helping with biometrics? You know, you alluded to it earlier on. A criminal commits an offense, his biometrics, you know, are captured such that is, you know, forensics. A crime is committed, we can do blood sampling and then know, okay, if this person's blood matches or air or whatever matches this, what we have in our record.
The INTERPOL system, the 19 databases I mentioned,
Yes.
They involve the forensics system, also the fingerprint, the iris
yeah.
and the facial recognition.
Yes.
They're all there.
Yes.
Even the DNA is also there, but don't forget that your country, unfortunately, do not have any viable DNA
laboratory.
So that's the unfortunate
We'll
one.
come back and talk about that another time. Last question for you. Your supporters back home in Abia State are putting immense pressure on you to run for governorship.
Yes, they are.
Last time I asked you, you said, Wale, we're not there. So we're there now. Give me an answer. Running or not running?
Under what platform? We have not chosen a platform yet. We have all kinds of manner of problems.
Time is running out, Chief.
Well, 24 hours is very big, very large politically. So decisions will be made. I have not decided yet. Decisions will be made. We want to let all the court cases, let it all be handled and sorted out, and then we'll be able to make a proper decision as what direction to take.
Thank you so much, sir. Chikwe Udensi.
Thanks.
As usual,
Thanks for
it's been wonderful having you.
Thanks.
And I'll see you again.